Hi, everyone. A big warm welcome to everyone who's taken time out of their schedule and what's typically a busy deadline season to come and spend the next 30 minutes together with us today. I'd like to give you first a brief idea about VynciTech. So they specialize in serial and modular construction methods that help developers to plan and build in a fraction of the time compared to traditional methods. So for the past year, they've tested pretty much every building and this building design and optimization platform that's out there, and they now know what's working great and what you probably want to avoid, and they'll gladly share that with you. So our webinar today is all about VynciTech and how they use purpose-built tools such as Spasio to help their clients achieve higher building performance and better quality living spaces. So we're going to be going now for about 20, 30 minutes, and I highly encourage everyone to ask questions in the chat underway, and then we'll make sure to answer all questions towards the end. So without further ado, here's Sara Mafi from VynciTech.
Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for dialing in, and thank you for your interest in both VynciTech and Spasio. I'm very honored today to do this shared webinar because we have tested a lot of AI software and a lot of interesting digital platforms, and we truly believe that Spasio has added a lot of value to our workflow. And I'm very happy that you've all taken the time to dial in today. So let's get started without further ado. This is what I'll be taking you through today. I'll give you a brief overview over VynciTech because we're a little bit unusual in that we combine architectural design, consultation, and IT. And we have quite a varied team and quite a specific impact on our clients who are primarily project developers. And then we'll show you a little bit about the VynciTech software workflow and the type of consulting we do on AI and digital methods. And then finally, we'll give you an overview of how we've used Spasio on a real life project to show you exactly what we achieve in terms of improving the designs of our clients. So as an introduction to VynciTech, first of all, I will briefly introduce myself. My name is Sara Mafi. I'm based in Germany. I've studied architecture at TU Munich, and I have worked quite traditionally in architectural offices, doing detailed design, competitions, etc., and also as a project manager for architectural projects. And today I've brought with me Zio Chen from our team, who has also prepared some really nice animations showing exactly how we use Spasio. So thank you very much, Zio, for making these very insightful visuals for us. To give you a brief overview of our team, we're really quite varied, both in terms of nationalities, age, experience, which I think makes us a really fantastic company. Our founder and CEO, Gernot Strube, was senior partner at McKinsey for a long time. And originally he studied aeronautics and came from quite a different field. And the idea of bringing industrialization and innovation to architecture is something that he's been doing for a long time. He's done a lot of consulting specifically for building companies and architectural companies. And our second co-founder, Christian Schulz, was a CEO at the Schindler Group for a long time. You may be familiar with the Schindler Lift company. If you've ever pressed a button on a lift, very likely one of them has been made by Schindler. And then Alexander Kappes, who is actually specializing in law and also construction site management. So we have quite a varied team with all a very interesting experience in the architectural world. And Natalie Yudkowsky and Zio Chen are also both specializing in IT for the built environment. So we have really varied experience. And as a result, what we do is to bring together this hybrid idea of using both AI and serial construction systems to actually make building houses faster, cheaper, and more efficient, because there is a huge housing shortage, not just affecting Germany, but many countries across the world. And we believe that in order to build better housing faster, more sustainably, and more affordably, but without compromising on quality, the best way forward is to cut out inefficiencies in both the planning process and the construction process, which is why we use AI and other innovative digital methods to make our planning and designing process faster. And we always design with a view to using building systems, which can be both serial, which is more like flat pack pre-made in the factory to a very, very high standard. Could be concrete, timber, different materials, or even modular construction where whole rooms are pre-made. And we help our clients unlock their real estate projects by showing them how to accelerate their projects, how to save money and construction time, which also goes hand in hand with always saving a lot of interest. So there's cost associated also with building projects taking longer, both in terms of financing and the costs on site. And we are a very applied company. We have a lot of industry experience, and we always take our clients through real life projects, which means that we use a lighthouse project or a pilot project where we show them the methods they can use so that they have a result from the first project onwards. And because we believe that as good as theory is and as helpful as it is for understanding concepts, the way forward is to then put it into practice. So we're always about implementing all our softwares and construction systems in real life projects. And this is what I've brought with me today. A project where I will show you the type of impact that we can achieve. This is an example. We try to measure what good design is. We want to achieve more sunlight. We want to achieve more daylight autonomy. We want to avoid noise or too fast wind speeds. We even can measure privacy in views. And of course, last but not least, we can reliably predict how sustainable a building is by looking at CO2 footprints and energy usage. So these are a lot of things that we can now model very quickly using different platforms. And today, the platform I want to look at with you specifically is Spacio, which we have found really useful for assessing design quality. As I mentioned, it's one of the many tools we use, which means that we have developed our own software workflow that we use. We also consult our clients on implementing new software tools and workflows for their own companies, because we're also about sharing our knowledge and actually bringing these efficiencies into their projects and leaving them with a lasting impact on their company. This is an example of all the different tools out there. You have probably heard of some of them, probably not all of them. There's always new ones coming up on the market. And we have found that a lot of the tools are really, really good, but they do specific things. And there's often not just one tool that does everything well, but some tools that very specifically do one thing very well. And for Spasio, we have found the most use we get is doing very good analyses of different options and design options. And so what we do in total in our workflow is we can generate master plans. We can iterate floor plans very quickly, which means that an AI will actually spit out options for us that help us very quickly continue on to BIM programs where we then refine the designs. We also test designs for different functionalities and qualities, such as wind speed, for example, which you can see in the bottom right diagram. The bottom left diagram is testing for daylight autonomy. So there's a lot of things we do that not just help us draft faster, but also help us ensure that the designs are better. And even for a seasoned design professional, so for me, it may sometimes be quite obvious that a design is better. But for a project developer, it's not always clear. Or in a design competition, they may receive a number of designs and they may not always understand the implications of making a change they desire. And so we also use Spasio to help them explain why design is better. So in our workflow, we combine generative AI, 3D BIM modeling, and also analysis tools. And we offer everything from first initial project kick-off consultations, which means we do feasibility studies very quickly. We pull in a lot of data automated from databases. And we very, very quickly proceed into 3D models where we layer all this data. And then as we proceed through the design, we keep trying to actually transfer this data on into the next tool, because what we want to avoid is having to redraft things. So we often import and export data files as well. And I found the best ways to do that and which tools go well together. We even sometimes give feedback to software companies to tell them what we have found, and they're usually very grateful for the feedback because we work independently. We are not associated with any one building system or software company. So we are really free to choose whichever softwares we want, and to advise clients on what is the best for their project. And for us, in terms of Spacio, this is mainly what we use it for. So it's in the initiation and concept stage. We use it to accelerate our feasibility studies and pulling key data such as gross floor area, for example, very, very fast for different options. And then when we analyze the master plans, we can see everything in 3D immediately. Sometimes it's the first time a client has actually seen their project in 3D, if they're still working with traditional methods such as 2D drafting. And we assess building quality such as traffic noise, wind views, even potential for photovoltaics. So there's a lot of data that we can pull very fast and very early in the design stage, which is when we need it the most. Because early on, you can still change a lot. And also because we use serial construction methods, our projects proceed significantly faster. So from the first ink drying on the paper up until a finished building, it can be as little as 7-8 months. So clients need to make decisions much faster, and we want to make sure that they actually feel confident to make those decisions. And this is a project I've brought as an example where a project developer had actually had a design made already, and then they had some very specific questions and they needed some help analyzing it to make further decisions. The project looks like this roughly. It's a senior living apartment. They have balconies and terraces with a view of wooded hills. And they were thinking about reducing the square meters from 9,500 to about 8,500. And they were struggling to understand what is actually the best part of the building to remove. They were thinking of removing the south part, and they weren't sure if that was the right idea and if they would still have enough area, if that would actually improve the design. And we were able to give them an immediate comparison of the design, the key figures such as square footage, and based on that, it's also possible to calculate cost really quickly. Combined with serial construction methods, it's actually possible to get a very, very close assessment of cost, often within plus minus 5% of build cost, which is really unheard of for traditional building methods. And we were able to also help them with assessing the best place for parking lot, the gardens, and to make the most of the woodland view. And we also used the model as basis for visualization. So what I'm showing you today, all of the visuals were actually made by our team using generative AI, primarily Stable Diffusion and Photoshop. And big thank you to my team, Natalie and Zio, who supported us with this project. And I will now show you some insights from Spasio. So this is actually what the project looked like in Spasio when we modeled it. You can see it's a fairly rural location and it's quite a large building, and you may ask why. So when the developer came to us, they told us that they'd actually discussed this project with the city, and what the community needed was actually apartments because they had a lot of single family homes. There were a lot of elderly people living there. So they were taking up family homes that had previously been used for larger households and for children. And they were often struggling with the large spaces. And what the community really wanted was actually some good quality apartments for assisted living so that people didn't need to leave the community, but could actually live within the same place. And so that's why you have this rather large apartment block in this rural area. So it's a bit like, think of it like large stately home in a rural area with lovely views, amazing woodland around it. And on the right, you can see option 1 and 2 that I spoke about, where they were thinking about making it smaller. And we spoke to them about the design because obviously we're designers as well. We do use a lot of statistics and data, but we also always use our design skills. And we advised them that perhaps this design didn't need to be so closed off because it wasn't in an urban location where you try to protect an inner courtyard. It's a more natural location with lots of nice landscape. And so we suggested to them to actually open it up and make the most of the view to the south. And obviously, a project developer, even when you talk about design, the first question they have is, how many units will I have? How much is it going to cost? Can I afford it? And so that is why for the design options, we used Spasio to very quickly determine the key figures. And you can see here in the statistics on the left, this is the menu that gives you a really good overview of gross floor area, and actually tells you for different options as well what they compare as. And that's really useful for us, but because it's so much faster than to make it in a BIM program or CAD program and then measure it by hand. Because what you can see now is when I actually remove the southern part, the figures update immediately. So it feeds in real time, which makes things much faster for us. And then what we can pull out of this for presentation, ready to go, is an overview of gross floor area, gross internal area, net internal area as an estimate. And it gives you a so much faster idea in the early project stage, where the project developer really just needs to assess quickly whether this project is worth proceeding with. We also did some other analysis about environmental factors. So this is a video showing sun hours analysis in Spasio. And you can see it has two options: plots, buildings. This is the building analysis. So it shows you how much of the facade gets direct sun. And you can set it to any time of year and any time of day. And what's really interesting is, and this is also where we advise our clients who come to us for questions about AI and digital platforms, there is a lot of data, but you need to be able to use the data well. And what you can see here is when I remove the south part, it actually reduces the amount of facade that gets direct sunlight at this particular point in the winter, because I'm actually removing most of the south-facing facade. So this is really interesting because I am actually improving the sun hours for the apartments behind, which is where it's really useful to look at the orange shades, because that shows me that the darker spots have disappeared. Even though the statistic seems 3% percentage points worse, I can see from the diagram that it's actually better for the apartments that are left in the design. And we've repeated this analysis also for the site, which is really great for assessing the shading on the site. And you can see here again, we set the date and the time and the simulation threshold, as in exactly what time of day. And you can see now that most of the shading is actually at the back of the building. And we advised the client that they actually had the parking lot at the front, which was sunny. And obviously in Germany, we like to enjoy the sunshine in the summer when we can make the most of it. And we said, actually, you have lovely view and you have a parking lot there where you get the most sun. So why not move it to the top? And the great thing is with Spasio, we can tell them really, really fast. There is actually enough space to move it because the square meters are the same. So I can model it really quickly. And the best thing is I can also convince the client really quickly, because what for me as a designer might be obvious as an idea, they will only believe when they see it. So if I can show them the numbers and the shading simulation, it's much, much easier to get their buy-in. And they feel more confident that this is a good decision. So it's easier to convince them to make a better design. So this is the impact that we have. We've put in a few visuals. As I said, they're all AI generated. Just to show you, Spasio is very logical programs based on a lot of data. It helps us transform our processes in a very thought out, logical way. But really what we're trying to do is we're trying to improve the design quality and the living quality. So you can see here the view without the middle part is much, much further, and I can make the most of the garden space. So if you have the visual plus the data, it's very easy to convince the client, because some people are more artistic. They pay more attention to atmosphere. Other people have a job where it's their job to ask a lot of very data-driven questions. So this way you can get everybody on board. And talking of views, this is another feature we really like in Spasio, because we think it's really unusual to be able to answer this question. What is actually a good view, and how can I ensure that as many apartments as possible have a nice view? So we like to use this functionality as well, where once we've modeled the project in Spasio, it's really, really fast for us to check it. So it tells us how many % of the facade have a clear view. And you assess how far. So you can see in the shading of the different colors how good the quality of the view is. And we really love this feature because it's so insightful, because views are really, really central to architectural design, and it's something that people really enjoy. And so this way we can show it really early on in the project how to make the most of it. So this is a really nice a feature that we like to use a lot. And the daylight assessment is also one that we love because, again, architectural designers will know daylight is something that really improves a room, and gloomy spaces are something that is actually not very healthy for people. And so we like to assess the daylight autonomy as well, which is actually not about a direct sun exposure, but it's about diffuse daylight. And so it's also really useful for explaining this concept to our clients. And you can see here we have our options saved in Spacio, option 1 and 2. And we're able to, again, assess really, really fast what the daylight figures are. So it's really fantastic because once you've modeled the project, you can run through each analysis one after the other pretty fast. And so we can offer our clients a really good portfolio of data and visuals to make decisions based. Which is really great because, as I said, our goal is to build faster and better and more affordably, but we don't want to minimize quality, actually want to maximize quality. So this tool really helps us achieve that. And again, I'll show you at the end an AI-generated visual. You can see better view in daylight, really central to the room, really improves the apartments for the people living there. And especially for senior living, we think it's really important that in order to encourage people to use these apartments, and still feel at home and still feel connected to their community, it's really important that they have good quality living space. Even if they're housebound, it's really important that they have a nice view so that they can enjoy the landscape that they've grown up in. And we think that Spasio really helps us achieve good quality housing. So thank you very, very much for listening. And I'll be very happy to take your questions. And I also have a little freebie to offer. We are actually offering 3 project-specific consultations about AI or serial construction or both. So I would like to invite the first 3 people to apply. If you have a specific project, then we will happily answer your questions, and you can ask us anything you want about your specific project, which is something that usually we only offer in terms of our paid clients, but we would be very happy because of our collaboration with Spasio to offer this to you as well. Okay, thank you very much for listening.